Mexico. That word has been sitting inside the ransom note since the very beginning, day one. Not hinted at, not buried in the margins, written there, plain and deliberate, in a note that arrived before the press conferences, before the media frenzy, before anyone even knew how bad this was going to get. And for 68 days, the FBI said nothing. Not a press conference, not a public statement, not even a whisper. 68 days of a family living in the most unimaginable kind of limbo, not knowing if their mother, their grandmother, their person is alive or dead or suffering somewhere they can't reach. And the one word that might have told us where to look was kept behind closed doors. A former FBI agent just broke the silence. He examined the ransom note, the original note, and revealed a detail that had been buried inside it from the start. A reference, a specific one, not vague, not symbolic, a geographic reference to Sonora, the Mexican state that sits directly south of Tucson, just 70 miles from where Nancy Guthrie was taken. And the question that is tearing this investigation open right now is this: why didn't anyone say anything? A Newsweek report just blew the lid off this. The former FBI agent didn't mince words. He said this wasn't a troll. This wasn't someone online trying to insert themselves into a tragedy for attention. The geographic detail in that note, the specificity of it, the way it was embedded in the language, the precision of the reference, all of it points to someone with real knowledge of the border corridor, someone who has traveled those routes, someone who knows the roads, the crossings, the terrain. This wasn't guesswork. This was written by someone who had been there. And the FBI had it from day one. They read it, they analyzed it, and they chose not to tell a single person outside their walls. So what do we do with that? There are two possible explanations, and I want you to sit with both of them because neither one is comfortable. The first is that this was a strategy, a cold, calculated, deliberate strategy. In kidnapping cases, information is currency. What the kidnappers don't know about what investigators know is sometimes the only advantage law enforcement has. If the FBI identified the Mexico reference early, if they recognized it as credible, as specific, as real, they may have made the decision to bury it, keep it out of the press, keep it off the airwaves. Because the moment the kidnappers learn that investigators are looking south, everything changes. They change routes. They relocate Nancy, if she's still alive, to somewhere harder to find. They destroy evidence. They go deeper underground. That silence, in that context, wouldn't be indifference, it would be protection. Every vague press statement, every non-answer at every press conference, every frustrating week where it felt like nothing was happening, it might have been a shield. The FBI running a shadow investigation, quiet, invisible, working the Mexico lead without anyone knowing, because the moment it's public, the trail goes cold. If that's what happened, if that's the truth, then the FBI is further ahead than any of us realize. And every day we felt abandoned by the silence was actually a day they were gaining ground. But then there's the second possibility, and this one is harder to look at. What if the FBI didn't act on the Mexico detail because they didn't take it seriously? What if all the flood of fake notes, the Bitcoin demands, the letters to TMZ, the contradictory claims from anonymous tipsters, what if all of that noise buried the one note that actually mattered? What if the original ransom note, the real one, sat in a folder somewhere while agents spent weeks running down leads that went absolutely nowhere? What if the signal was there the entire time and they kept chasing static? That's the question that haunts this case, because both answers lead to the same brutal destination, Mexico, and 68 days of time that cannot be recovered. Think about what 68 days means for a family. 68 mornings waking up and not knowing. 68 nights going to sleep without answers. More than $1.2 million in reward money sitting untouched. Money that represents the desperate, heartbreaking hope that someone, somewhere will come forward with something real. And all the while, the one geographic detail that might actually matter was sealed inside an investigation that wasn't talking. Now let's talk about why the Mexico reference carries so much weight. Because it's not just a word on a page, it changes the entire geometry of this investigation. Tucson sits 70 miles from the border. The drive to Nogales, the crossing point, takes just over an hour. From there, you're in Sonora, and once you cross that line, the entire framework of an American investigation collapses. Search warrants don't apply. Cell tower data goes dark the moment you're on the other side. Surveillance footage from Arizona gas stations, trail cameras, license plate readers, all of it becomes useless. The reward money the Guthrie family put up, money raised with love and desperation and community, carries no legal weight in a jurisdiction that operates under entirely different rules. If Nancy was taken across that border on the night she disappeared, if she was moved south while her family was still filing a missing persons report, then every domestic search effort since that moment has been pointing in the wrong direction. And no one told us. A former FBI agent is now calling for DEA involvement. Not just FBI, not just local law enforcement, the Drug Enforcement Administration. And when you understand why, it makes your stomach drop. Because the DEA has something no other agency has in this situation: cross-border intelligence networks, informants embedded on both sides of the line, surveillance infrastructure that reaches into Mexican territory, relationships with Sonoran authorities that took years, sometimes decades, to build. If Nancy Guthrie is south of that border right now, the DEA is the only agency with the reach to find her. And as of today, there is no public confirmation there at the table. Sit with that for a moment. The one agency that was built for exactly this scenario, cross-border operations, cartel territory, intelligence networks that work in the shadows, may not even be involved. 68 days in, a credible reference to Mexico sitting in a ransom note since hour one, and the agency best equipped to act on it may not have been called. But here's where it gets even more complicated, because the Mexico detail isn't the only thing the FBI has been holding close. Ashley Banfield reported this week that the FBI now believes the original ransom notes are real. Not all of the notes. The FBI drew a clear line, and that line matters more than almost anything else that's happened in this investigation. On one side of the line, the original notes, the ones that arrived before the media attention, the ones that threatened Nancy's life, the ones written before everyone with a keyboard decided to make this story about themselves. Those notes, the FBI says, are real. On the other side, the Bitcoin demands, the anonymous tipster letters, the TMZ messages, the notes that kept shifting and contradicting each other, those are noise, opportunists, people who saw a family's worst nightmare and decided it was an opportunity. That distinction is everything, because if the original notes are real, if they were written by the actual kidnapper, then they aren't just threats, they're evidence. They're a behavioral fingerprint. Every word choice reveals something about education, background, and experience. Every delivery method reveals something about access and proximity. The structure of a sentence, the rhythm of the language, the specific details chosen, all of it is data. All of it says something about who wrote it and where they've been. And the FBI has been reading those fingerprints for over 2 months in silence. Now connect both pieces. The original notes are real, and one of those original notes references Mexico with geographic specificity. That means the Sonora detail wasn't a red herring thrown in by some internet troll. It was written by the kidnapper in his own hand, or at least his own words, pointing 70 miles south, pointing across a border where American law doesn't follow. The FBI had it from day one. They read it, they filed it, and they did not tell the world. That is either the most disciplined, strategic silence in this investigation, or it is the most consequential failure. And right now, nobody outside the FBI can tell us which one. What's changed is that the pressure is no longer just coming from grieving families and frustrated followers online. This week, Pima County officials formally demanded answers from Sheriff Nanos. Not requested, not suggested, demanded. News Nation confirmed it. This isn't Twitter outrage. This is the institutional body that oversees the sheriff's office, the people who control his budget and have authority over his conduct, publicly saying, "We need to know what has been happening for 68 days." Think about the timing. This demand comes in the same week the FBI confirmed the original notes are real. In the same week, a former FBI agent publicly pointed to Mexico. The pressure isn't coming from one direction anymore. It's converging from three. The FBI quietly building something from those notes, a former agent breaking ranks and pointing south, and the sheriff's own government turning on him. Three pressure points, closing in at once. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, somewhere we cannot see and cannot reach, Nancy Guthrie is still missing. So let's put it together. Let's say it plainly. The original notes are real. Mexico was written into them from the start. The FBI kept that quiet, and the walls are now closing in from every direction. What does that actually mean? It means the FBI may already be operating on a theory, a serious theory, that Nancy was taken across the border. They haven't said it publicly. Of course they haven't, not while the investigation is active. But the fact that a former FBI agent felt comfortable enough to discuss the Mexico connection in a major national publication tells you something important. This theory isn't fringe. It isn't the speculation of amateur detectives on YouTube. It is on the table. It may have been on the table for weeks. It also means the people who took Nancy weren't amateurs. They didn't keep sending notes to the media. They communicated once, early, with careful and specific language, and then they went silent. That silence is its own kind of evidence. Professionals communicate once. They deliver the message and then disappear. Amateurs keep talking because they can't help themselves. The original note went out, then nothing. Everything after was noise from people trying to profit. The real source went quiet, and the FBI has been sitting with that, with the weight of what it implies, for 68 days. And then there are the reconnaissance visits, 3 of them. Back in January, weeks before Nancy disappeared, someone visited her home 3 separate times. 3 visits to study her routine, map her movements, understand when she was alone and when she wasn't. That level of preparation doesn't come from desperation or impulse. It comes from a network, from resources, from someone or a group of someones who had already mapped a route out of the country before they ever knocked on her door. The Mexico detail was in that note from day one. The FBI had the language, they had the geographic reference, they had the specificity that told a trained eye this was real. And for 68 days, while this family suffered, while the public searched, while tips poured in and reward money accumulated, and every lead seemed to evaporate, the FBI sat with the one word that might tell us where to look. Was that silence a strategy or a mistake? If it was strategy, then the FBI is playing a longer game than any of us understood. They've been protecting the investigation, building something in the shadows, waiting for the kidnappers to make a move that confirms everything. And every frustrating, agonizing day of public silence was actually a day they were closing in. But if it was a mistake, if the Mexico detail was buried under the noise, underestimated, filed away while agents chased dead ends, then 68 days were lost. 68 days where the search faced the wrong direction. 68 days where Nancy was 70 miles from where anyone was looking. Either way, the silence is broken now. The Mexico detail is out in the open. A former FBI agent said it publicly, Newsweek printed it, and the next move belongs to the FBI. I keep coming back to one question I can't let go of. If the kidnapper wrote the word Mexico, wrote Sonora specifically, into that ransom note on day one, why did he do it? Was it a threat? A way of telling the family, she's out of your reach, you can't get to her, American law can't touch us where we are? Was it a taunt? A way of looking investigators in the eye and saying, you know where we went and there's nothing you can do about it? Or was it an accident? Did he reveal more than he intended? Did he include a detail in the heat of the moment that he didn't think would matter? A detail that has since become the most significant piece of evidence in this entire investigation. The FBI has had 68 days to figure out which one, and they still haven't told us. What do you think? Was the FBI's silence a strategy, the smartest move in a desperate case, or was it a failure that cost Nancy time she may not have had to spare? Tell me in the comments, and if you haven't watched yesterday's video about the note that said she's dead and the contradictions the FBI found inside it, watch it now, because understanding what's real and what's noise in this investigation is the only way any of this starts to make sense. Nancy Guthrie is still missing, and somewhere the answer is already written.